Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Staten. I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Society. I represent clients who are HIV positive. I do all sorts of different things, poverty law-wise with them, evictions, Social Security disability cases, lots of different things. Today I'm going to talk about prescribing pre-exposure prophylaxis for adolescents in Kentucky, kind of what the law is right now in Kentucky regarding that. So we'll just kind of get into it. Minors consent to health care in Kentucky. So first of all, we have basically what is a minor. So a minor is going to be someone that's under 18. Once you're 18, you're of the age of majority, except for those two exclusions that we have on there. Someone that's not over 18 is a minor, and that person won't be able to consent to health care, do other things. Kentucky law authorizes minors to consent in certain situations, and we'll get to those. But minors can't do a lot of things that adults can do. So a minor, for instance, can't sign a contract; it wouldn't be valid, etc. So what kind of things can a minor do in Kentucky? Well, this is the statute that controls, and we'll talk a little bit about, so the law, a statute is passed by the Kentucky State Legislature, and so that's kind of the rules of the game, what you have to abide by, right? So this is the statute that allows a physician to treat a minor, in this case, without consent of a parent. And what they can do is make a diagnostic examination for venereal disease, pregnancy, alcohol or other drug abuse, addiction, and those words are important after that. They may advise, prescribe for, and treat such minor regarding venereal disease. So our statute here basically says regarding venereal disease. That's not really very clear. So if you're a prescribing physician and you're looking to prescribe to a minor, you're kind of wondering what that tells you is regarding PrEP. Is PrEP included in that, or is it not included? Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you on that because it's not clear, and there are no cases in Kentucky that shed any light on that issue. So if you're a physician and you're trying to treat a minor, then you would, and without parental consent, then you would have to take a chance and say, okay, well, I think the statute lets me do it. I think regarding venereal disease includes prophylaxis like PrEP. So when a statute is what's called vague, we call it vague in legal terminology, you would, the courts, if you had a case, say you had a client that was a minor that you treated and his parents found out and they sued you, then the court's going to look at the issue of whether you as a physician should have been able to treat them or not, and they're going to look at the statute and try to figure out if PrEP is covered. And so the court's going to have to decide whether PrEP is included under this regarding venereal disease or not. So who knows what they would say. Let's go. The regulations on it don't make it any clear. The Kentucky administrative regulations don't even use venereal disease. They use sexually transmitted disease. So when you pass a statute, it's a law, and then after that, the agency responsible, the health department, whoever it is going to pass regulations regarding that statute and how it's supposed to be applied to give people kind of an understanding of what's going to happen. Well, unfortunately, this doesn't really help because they're talking in two different terms. They're using venereal disease and sexually transmitted disease. I think it's a small point because most people are going to agree those are the same things, and the list is there too, and HIV is included on it, but it doesn't really help clear up the situation at all. Again, Kentucky case law doesn't, for the most part, use the term venereal disease, uses sexually transmitted disease. So Kentucky case law means court cases. So when court cases talk about these issues, they talk about them in regards to sexually transmitted diseases as well. And they have not addressed in Kentucky the issue of PrEP and minors. There's another statutory provision there that you could use to look at regarding treating a minor without parental consent to give them PrEP. And that's in a situation where there's medical, dental, other health services that could be rendered. And you can read through that. Basically, my take on that is that's more for an emergency treatment. And so again, there's going to be a lot of judgment that the physician's going to need to engage in. And so it's not clear. So if I'm the physician, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm prescribing PrEP, is this an emergency that fits into this, or is it not? I don't know, and there's no one that can tell you. You could just do it and see what happens. Unfortunately, you don't want to get sued or cause yourself a problem because of that. So the conclusion basically is that Kentucky law fails to provide a clear indication to a physician about whether they can prescribe PrEP to a minor in Kentucky without parental consent. It's an easy situation really to remedy, because I think the statute, when it was written, it's old enough that regarding venereal disease sort of was good enough. It was explanatory enough with the other stuff that was in there, because PrEP didn't exist, right? So there wasn't such a prophylaxis. So it wasn't imagined. Other states have different statutes on this, and those states, some of them actually include the words preventative in their statute. And so one state that does that is North Carolina. And North Carolina says, any minor may give effective consent to a physician licensed to practice medicine in North Carolina for medical health services for prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of venereal disease and other diseases. So the word prevention, diagnosis, and treatment, those three words, particularly prevention, sort of clear it up. PrEP is a preventative. HIV is considered a venereal disease. It's going to cover it in North Carolina. And Kentucky we could easily change our statute to include that. And I think that's something that people in the state would look to do in the future, so that it would be clear, so that we could prescribe to minors. Some of the arguments that we have in Kentucky, again, if we were to argue about this and what the statute means, we could say, hey, the law doesn't prohibit giving someone preventative measures, or in other words, prescribing PrEP. And it says the physician may advise, prescribe for, and treat such minor regarding venereal disease. So there would be an argument that could be made, hey, this is broad enough that it includes PrEP. It doesn't mention prevention specifically, but that's okay. There's still enough there to allow it. The problem is it's not clear, and people like a clear indication. If I'm a physician, I would want a clear indication of what I should do in that situation, not just hope that some court later on is going to consider this broad enough. If I have angry parents that come in that I didn't tell, that find out, then, again, I'm looking at a suit or a complaint, and I don't know how that's going to be resolved because this doesn't help me. I have an argument, but that's all. The court could come down the opposite and construe the language as not including PrEP at all, and so then you wouldn't be protected. Argument 2 is basically talking about contraceptives, because contraception is mentioned in the statute, and you're allowed to provide contraception services to minors without parental consent. So you could talk about PrEP as being similar to a contraceptive. I don't think it's number 2 for a reason as an argument, because I think number 1's better. Number 2 really isn't that great. Contraception and prevention of a disease, which is what PrEP does, isn't really the same thing. Contraception prevents pregnancy, And in whatever case, like if it's condoms, it could prevent other STDs from you getting those. But it's a hard argument to make, I think. The Supreme Court just, they said minors can obtain contraceptives without parental consent. So that's basically all nationwide then, that can happen. Again, the problem with it is making an argument that PrEP is similar to contraceptives, I don't think is really the best thing, the best argument that you could make. So basically that's all of it. The end is just legal emancipation, and I wanted to throw that in because a lot of states have statutory schemes for minors to be emancipated, and if you're an emancipated minor, then you can make all your own decisions just like an adult could do, and there's not any of these problems. The issue in Kentucky is there's really no clear path to emancipation. A minor can go to court and ask to be emancipated, and the court can decide on a bunch of different factors whether that's going to happen. But there's, again, no like statutory scheme where, okay, the minor files this in court and asks that he be emancipated. You just have to go to court and say, look, I want to be emancipated, and who knows what they would have to file in that case. And the court could look at it and the court could emancipate him, but it's just not clear. So